I'm going to be comparing this $800 Canon lens to this $200 Rokinon lens. So I've been using the Canon 35mm 1.4 L series lens for a while now, and it's been a great lens for me. It's a really high quality lens. It's great for photography, but it's just missing a few features for video, especially the run and gun video that I do a lot of, and I know a lot of you do run and gun as well. It's just missing a few things that kind of make it not the ideal lens for me. That I know that the Rokinon has. The main one for me is the ability to manually change the aperture. The Rokinon has the aperture ring on it where you can change it without electronics from the camera. And so for me, I'm using the Blackmagic Pocket. The adapter I have does not communicate with the lens electronically. So if I want to change the aperture on my Canon, I have to pop it off my camera, put it into my DSLR, change the aperture where I want it, put it back on the camera. Hopefully I pick the right aperture that time, because if it's not, I have to do that process over again. And that's not really a big deal when it comes to some more commercial type shots where you get to set up your camera and you get to spend some time on setting things up. But run and gun, it just does not prove to be very functional for me to have to take the lens off anytime I want to change the aperture. So that's what drew me to the Rokinon originally, was just the ability to control the aperture manually. Then I found that there's a couple other features on the Rokinon that, to me, for run and gun filming, beats the Canon out. Another one of those is the focus ring. My follow focus does not connect with the grooves here of the Canon, and so I actually have to have an adapter that I connect to it so that my follow focus can get into these grooves, and that's kind of annoying. Another thing with the focus ring, because I know the Canon is designed for photography where you're using autofocus, and that's great, but for manual focus, which is what I do with video, the focus ring, when it reaches the minimum and maximum focus, it continues to turn. So if you're using a follow focus and you have your lines marked, it's pretty easy to slide past that, and now you've missed it. Where the Rokinon actually, at the minimum and maximum, catches and stops. So that was a big deal to me as well. I also noticed that when you're talking about the minimum and the maximum focus, the Rokinon actually has a longer throw, so you have more control over your focusing, and that's really important when you're pulling focus or something. You want something slow and smooth. You don't want to go past it, so it's nice to have that little bit extra control. And so when you take these features that really appeal, because this is a cinema lens, this is the Rokinon 1.5 Cine lens. It really does have the cinematographer in mind with some of these features, and those proved to me to be very important on run and gun filming. The only thing is, this is a $200 lens used. The Canon is an $800 lens used. So is there a big quality difference? Because I wasn't going to sacrifice quality to get some of these features, even though I really would like to have these features. So I decided to put these two lenses head-to-head, some quality testing. How sharp are they? How well do they do with color grading and color correction? Is there a difference? Is there a big enough difference to say, I like having the manual aperture, but it's not worth it because the quality's too bad? And so I ran some tests. One of them that I ran, I printed off this wheel just to test the sharpness of the camera, and I'll put a link in the description so that you can print this off if you want to do some testing on your own. But I really wanted to see, how well does it work at different apertures. And then also, I took some shots to see how the lens does in an actual application. So let's pull up some of the shots I did with the wheel to see the sharpness of it. And I did it at 4 different apertures. I did it wide open, which is 1.4 for the Canon, 1.5 for the Rokinon, but close enough. Then I did it at 2.8 4, and 8. That gave me a pretty good range of different apertures, different applications that I would use out shooting. I do a lot of wide open shooting because I like that depth of field. But when you're outside, 2.8 or 4 is pretty open when you're talking about direct sunlight. And then 8 is just kind of, I don't shoot at 8 or past that too often. But I wanted to see how sharp they were as the aperture starts to close a little bit. So I took these videos. I've got the same distance, the same lighting, everything stayed the same for the two lenses. And I've got them side by side. Wide open, immediately, to me, the Rokinon has beaten out the Canon. And I don't know if you can see it on the screen here, but I can tell a big difference in the sharpness between the Rokinon and the Canon, and it seems to me that the Rokinon has actually beaten the Canon, which shocked me. And I did these a few different times to make sure that the focus wasn't just a little bit off, error on my side. This is how it's looked in every one so far. Even when I was filming it, I could tell, because I've got focus peaking on the camera, I could tell that the Rokinon seemed to recognize the focus peaking better than the Canon wide open. It was very strange to me, but see if you can see a difference. I definitely can, and it looks like the Rokinon is a little bit sharper. When you jump to 2.8, the Canon bounces back really quickly, and now I don't really see much of a difference between the two. I think the quality is very similar at 2.8, the same at 4, and the same at 8. It just seems to me that 2.8, 4, and 8, the quality is too close to call. I can't tell a difference between the two. But what really shocked me was when you have the apertures wide open, it seemed that the Rokinon was slightly sharper than the Canon. I don't know if you can see that or if that means much to you, but to me, I do so much with depth of field. I like that deep depth to it. That was really a wow factor for me to see that the Rokinon could keep up with the Canon or even maybe surpass it a little bit. But of course, this is zoomed into 200%, so we are pixel peeping a little bit at this point, which you're not going to be doing. You're not going to be zooming in 200%, and you're not going to have these exact fine lines to look at. But this is a good test to really look at the sharpness of your lens. And what I realize is that to get the sharpest look from the Canon, I really should not stop down past 2.8. 2.8 needs to be my widest aperture, and sometimes I want to go past that, and the Rokinon at 1.5 was still looking very good, and so to me that was a big deal. I took some test shots of making a pour over, and you can take a look at both of these and see actually in a shooting process, like, how do they compare? How do they stack up against each other? To me, even wide open, when you're actually out shooting something, they were so close that even zooming in, I could not tell a difference between the two. The quality of the Rokinon really, to me, matched the Canon very well. So when you consider the fact that you can buy 2 or maybe even 3 Rokinon Cine lenses for the price of the one Canon, their qualities are so close to each other, and the Rokinon has the few features that to me are very important: the manual aperture, the better focusing ring. To me, it's a no-brainer that for what I do, run and gun video shooting, the Rokinon is the clear winner. But I'm gonna play a couple different clips for you here, one shot with the Rokinon, one shot with the Canon, and you tell me if you can see the difference between the two. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.